All right, so there's been a lot of interest on how I actually got my dogs to Europe. So here's how I did it. For starters, I have two Chihuahua mixes. I'm gonna try to put a picture up. We'll see if I can edit. We'll see. They are Bernie and Frank. They just turned 7 in December. So every year we kind of do our vaccinations, and then some places recommend like booster shots at like 6 months. So I already had a budget for the vaccinations when I decided to start traveling with them. The information online can be a little confusing. I think it really depends on knowing what country that you want to go to. So at the time of my trip, I knew I wanted to go to the UK. So we kind of curtailed that by going to Ireland first. So I can only tell you kind of how to get into Ireland. I think it's very specific depending on the country, but most people need rabies vaccination, a microchip, a health certificate, and some countries will require that you to give them like worm medicine, like deworming medicine before travel. But it really varies depending on the country that you're going to. So for Ireland, we were in Texas, and it was time for the dogs to get their shots. Every year we do it. Something that we didn't have already, we didn't have the microchip. I was kind of like debating. This is before I knew I was going to travel. So the reason why I never got them microchipped is because I didn't really understand what it was. I didn't know if it was like a subscription. I kept getting like different ideas about the cost, but I just looked it up, and like you pay a fee for one time, and then it stores like your information. And I think like if your dogs get lost, the service will contact you. And it's good enough for Europe, so it's good enough for me, right? So the dogs got microchipped, so I paid for that. And then they had to go and get a health certificate. Only certain vets are actually certified to give out US health certificates. I don't know why that is. And it's also, it's expensive, especially because I was doing it with 2 dogs.
Here is a breakdown of what I actually spent at the vet to get my dogs from Texas to Ireland. As I mentioned, some of these costs I anticipate because I pay them every year. So like their annual vaccinations, I set aside about $200 to $300 to cover that for both dogs. Additionally, their flea, tick, and heartworm medicine, it's usually a monthly payment, but because I knew I was traveling, I wanted to get about 6 months worth, and so I bought it in bulk for both dogs, and that cost me $300. I also want to add, their microchips were covered under the pet insurance they were on at the time, so that was a fee that was a fee I paid, but I got reimbursed for it. Let me know if you actually want to know a more detailed breakdown of what I spent to get my dogs prepared to go abroad. That includes obviously airline fees, traveling case fees, and little stuff like that.
So I got my paperwork. Going into Ireland, you actually have to contact I forget what it's called, but it's like the Irish animal import whatever, and they have to kind of give you permission. I sent along my dog's vaccinations, I sent along the health certificate, and I was like, okay, we're coming into the country on this date, this is my flight number, blah blah blah, and I sent it to them. So when we got to and they flew in cabin with me. So my dogs are Chihuahua mixes, so they're small. Get to Ireland, basically some sort of attendant person wanted to just look at the dogs, look at my paperwork to verify everything, and then they let us go. It was a very short process. We went to like a back room. He was like, oh, can I look at the dogs? So yeah, they gave him water. And then we got out of there. Poor Frank pooped in the airport. It's not his fault. It was a long trip. It was a very long travel day, but we made it. We had a layover in New York, and the New York airport has like pet stations. Basically, I think they converted like bathrooms to be like areas where you can let your dog relieve themselves. So thank God for that. And it was, I think I was stressed out, but ultimately, like, my dogs did really well on the plane. They just sleep. So they were okay on the plane. They were kind of rowdy in the airport. Like, they, they're just not used to being in an airport. Lots of different smells, lots of people walking around, lots of noises, and, think about it, like, from a dog's perspective. But after we got out of there, like, they were totally fine, and then boom, we were in Ireland.
And as always, please like, comment, and subscribe, and follow me on all social media platforms as the Awkward Black Nomad.